How's it going, internets? I hope you're having a lovely day. It's that time again. It's time to get into some animation and time to get that imagination all revved up and get into some creativity. It's time to get inspired. And today's inspiration comes from Mike Dubisch. If you're not familiar with his work, check right over here. He's a beautiful artist who I've recently found, and I just love everything. He's got really a kind of 80s sci-fi fantasy feel to all of his work that it's a big draw for me, for sure. So you can see he's got a great layout. I love the line of action and the flow throughout this. A branch, tree root, and great posing here. Really tons of detail in each and every one of his pieces. I love the characters that he comes up with and these fantasy worlds that he creates. And I really am also a fan of the kind of brown sketch paper drawings, or really kind of old faded sketchbook kind of style to any sort of work. It kind of is reminiscent of old Dubisch style sketching. It's just a big aesthetic appeal to me, for sure. And then, like I said, he's got some great character designs, so definitely check out more from him. I really like this guy. Very cool. I think this reminds me of Star Wars kind of a character there. That face. Let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, definitely check out more stuff. I will throw a link to his stuff in the description below, but I want to share a quote from him as well. That was, do your own thing, show the world your vision. I think that's great, simple, to the point, and kind of follow your own compass when it comes to the creative world. And again, you want to master all of the fundamentals for whatever medium you're going to get into, but then once you kind of gone over that bump, which would probably be a few years into whatever medium it is that you're doing, then get creative and get unique and get individual and use that wonderful thing that you have up here, your imagination. So let's go ahead and get into some animation. This is the Mary rig. It's a free rig you can grab over at Creative Crash. I will throw a link to it in the description below, and the quick little elevator pitch if you aren't familiar with the videos. Thanks for watching first. Thanks for swinging by. Definitely subscribe to the channel if you're new. And what we'll be doing for the next 48 frames, which is 2 seconds of animation, probably around half an hour to an hour, depending on how it goes. I go off and I find a rig that I've never used before. It's a free resource for you guys to play around with. And just hang out with me while I animate and kind of talk through creative process, talk through different ideas or ways to approach different things, and kind of hang out. And the main goal of this stuff is to hopefully encourage you guys to go off and create your own stuff each and every day, and maybe inspire you through something we talk about, or that maybe you learned or got reminded of if you're already at a great animation level, which chances are you guys totally are. So let me know always as well if you disagree with something I said, or you think there's a better approach, or you do it a different way. I'd love to know. I'm just a big fan of the process overall. So let's go ahead and get into some animation here. Let's go ahead and create a polygon primitives cube just so we have a ground layer here to start with. Let's turn our grid off, and let's find a pose here that we like. Drop that arm down. Should we do a cycle? Yeah, I'm feeling a little cycle-y today, so let's do a cycle here. And I feel like this kind of a character would be kind of shy. For some reason I'm feeling that, so let's go ahead and pull the feet inward a little bit, give her a little bit of pigeon-toedness, and let's give her a little bit of a hunch, an insecure kind of curvature to her spine, so she maybe isn't too sure of herself. And let's go ahead and tilt their head up a little bit. It seems like with this rig, the rotate X and rotate Z are switched from what a lot of rigs use. And let's tilt the arm forward here, this arm forward here. And let's see, what should we do with the arms? Maybe we could have one kind of wrap around her waist, or we can do both of them kind of wrap around her waist. Let's try it out. Doesn't have to be super tight, but something there. don't want to make her feel sick, but more insecure. So let's see if we can't get that kind of emotion across here. Just kind of shy or insecure kind of a style. And a lot of times, I mean, it just depends on what you guys are into. But again, we kind of go more improv-y with our animation with these videos. So I always find something that I've never used before and just pretty much go into it blind. A lot of times I like to have a kind of a rough concept idea, but sometimes I just kind of see where the rig takes me. So let's see. See if we can't get something fairly good here. Maybe we could do something where she's kind of, would be a good shy pose. I like the thing where she pulls on her clothes, but we don't really have clothes to do, so I don't want to have both arms doing the same thing, so let's bring that down here, zero that out there. Try something different. This arm, that way we don't have kind of too much mirroring from side to side here. Drop the shoulders here as well. I'll have to counter animate the arms here a little bit. Bring that over, bring it forward here. I guess we could just kind of keep that arm to the side. And one thing that's kind of a personality thing, people who tend to be shy or more reserved usually try to make themselves as small as possible. So they usually have more of a hunch and usually kind of keep their arms in. But people who are really confident always, puff their chest out. And this isn't always, but as a kind of rule to start off with. They're usually big, they do big arm gestures and hand movements and everything, versus someone who's shy, who usually is a little more reserved and just kind of quiet and everything. So try and incorporate that kind of stuff into posing. And the stuff is, again, just kind of the things you want to be thinking about while you're creating a pose or deciding on the kind of personality you want to do for a walk or whatever it might be. Let's do a little more bend there. Bring this down. Bring over X. Out in Z. And one thing that's really good for learning this stuff is just to study people, go out and people watch. Or watch videos on YouTube, but it's always good, I think, to really go in and do the research yourself. And by that I mean go off and study people on your own rather than relying on a YouTube video to tell you, and that's going to get something that isn't as original as if you go off to to your local mall and study people, or you go off to whatever it may be. Interesting way that they have laid out the hands here on this rig, I think. A little bit different. They have it set up by the bases all at once and the mids all at once and the tips all at once, versus having index, base, mid, and tip, middle, base, mid, and tip. Kind of a different decision, I think. I'm not sure that I love that direction with it, but at least you have all the controllers, which is nice. And on any free rig, when they give you all the controllers, you got to be appreciative of what you get. And that's another note as well I want to mention. If you guys have any rigs that you ever want me to test out or try out or feature in one of these videos, definitely just leave a link in the comments below or send me a message, and I'm happy to play around with it if you want someone to test out your rig or try it out as well. A little interesting hand pose here, especially on that finger. We'll bring that out. So we're going to do micro movements then pretty much on the arms and do most of the stuff on small little steps. I think that's a fairly good pose to start off with. Again, we're kind of keeping it very simple and very reserved. So let's go ahead and turn everything off except for our nerve curves, our nerve surfaces, and our polygons. And let's go ahead and save our file. Remember, it's always good to save multiple versions and to save often. And if you've been someone who's been watching, keeping along and watching videos for at least a week or so, I'm sure you've seen times when I should have followed that rule a little better than myself. So let's grab everything and hit S on our keyboard and set our first frame. We also set our frame range from 0 to 48, so we got 48 frames here. And let's start building this walk. And the main things that we want to focus on to begin with are going to be the feet and the hips. And once we get those working, then we'll go in and add some more features here. And again, this is going to be more of a cycle than a kind of movie style or a short style animation. This is going to be more like something they would use for a video game, which would be a cycle, so that you could then plug in the gameplay elements on top of it and have the character move over a board or a base or a level or whatever you want to refer to it as, versus a movie which you'd just be working on playing to camera. So it'd be something that you'd want to have work in 360 degrees and work so that it would show off that the characters have an element of the character moving along a plane when really it's kind of hovering above it, but you still want to have that semblance that it's actually working on there. And let's go ahead and just lock in those keys one more time, and we'll get those passing positions built in. And another thing with doing kind of a shy walk, it's a practice in restraint, so we're not going to do too much that's really the way we're going to exaggerate this walk is by under-exaggerating, which is another form of exaggerating. Say you're doing a caricature drawing of a person's face. You may think that every exaggerating stuff is just making stuff larger, but actually, if you make a really tiny nose, that's an exaggeration because you're exaggerating the small part. And so in this kind of a walk, we're going to be exaggerating the fact that she's using littlest amount of effort to walk, and try and get from here to there so that she maybe wouldn't be causing much attention to herself because she'd be kind of insecure or something. So let's look at our translate Y and just kind of get a good balance between the two on how much up and down we get on each step, so we've got kind of a uniform thing. And it's in a case like this, chances are I'm probably aiming for somewhere in the middle here, so we'll just kind of meet in the middle there. Let's go ahead and look at those feet. And let's go drag that there. And drag that there again. And let's see, is there a toe? Toe pivot is probably going to mean we're pivoting on the tip of the toe, and I want more of a toe drag. So let's make sure, which might be this ball. I'm not sure now. See, it's going to not be right either. Well, it looks like it has a ton of great controllers, except nothing that we can do a toe drag with, which is kind of a bummer. So let's see, how could we still get some semblance of that? We can have it land with the heel pivot here. Oh, nope. I guess not. So bank here, and then zero down. Okay. So we can try that. Let's see if that would work. So it's less of a toe break and more of just a landing on the heel here. But well, as long as we can get that kind of heel toe on that foot, it'll help that I'm going to tone that down a little bit more. And also drag it back a little bit there. Again, it would be nice if we could get a little bit of toe break just to break up the shape of that foot a little bit more. But it doesn't look like we have that option. There's a little bit in this kind of ball roll, so we might play with that. We'll see how it works out, but I think for now we'll stick with this, what did we say it was? Bank? Heel pivot, I think. Is that what we did? No. See, the thing is, each and every rigger has a different approach to how they want to... Oh, we could do that here. No, it doesn't work. What they want to... a naming convention and a setup here. So what did we use? Why can't I think of the name of it here? It's a bank. Why isn't the bank working here? Bank. Lift it up. How weird. See, the bank on this foot works strangely, while the bank on this foot seems to work fairly uniform. See, that works like this. That's what we want it to do. This one, when we do a little bit of bank, it does a weird poppiness on there. So let's try something different. What do we do here? Drag it down there. And what can we do here? We do a heel pivot. Guess what we could do is just do a little bit of rotate X, I guess. I don't really like doing that because it doesn't give a true heel touch, but to give us something at least. And we'll drag the foot there. It just isn't as believable, that contact there. But it's something. At least it gives us something that's a little truer. And we'll lift it up there. And keep that. So let's look at that. Oh well. It uses close to the same, but not exactly. But that's okay. We can have some variation there. So let's go ahead and save our file, just since we're at a good point there. And let's start getting into these hips. And let's keep them a little more. That's not going to be the main thing. We want this kind of root control here. And let's go. Okay, must be translate. X is the up and down on this one. Again, that's one of the reasons why I think it's always fun and a good challenge to try out different rigs, so that you can never stay too safe and used to your style of animating. You have to always adapt to how is this rig set up, what's the best way that I can go approach to getting some decent animation with the time that I'm given. I think that's a good challenge to give yourself, especially if you're just learning animation, is to just get in there and play around, and don't be afraid to fail or mess it up or anything, but it's all learning. I know for myself, when I was first starting out at school, I just pretty much stuck with the like, this is the assignment for the week and that's the assignment for the week. But it was once when I started really, okay, well, this is what I want to do, and then I'll do assignments on top of that. That's when I really started growing and learning more, was because I was just challenging myself, and that stuff I wouldn't care if I messed it up or not. And that kind of mentality, I think, really helps and is really good for, especially when you're first starting out. So let's go and do a little bit of tilt over 1 wants to loosen you up, so you're not so worried about the blank page or the new Maya file or whatever it is. That's a big thing that, and occasionally I'll still get that. I'm really less in animation and just throw it open, but occasionally still with illustration, staring at that blank canvas, digital or physical. It still can be a little bit intimidating every once in a while. So that's why you want to do it as much as you can and get what's that? There's a phrase that goes, you have 10,000 bad drawings in you, and the goal is to get them out as fast as you can. So do as much drawing as you can, and that the same thing goes with the animation or music or whatever it may be. That you have all of these bad ideas and bad things to get through. So just hurry up and get through them, and put as much time and effort as you can in front of. What did I think it was? I'm not gonna attribute it because I'll probably say the wrong thing, but a YouTuber that I really like, I think, refers to it as chair time or seat time or whatever, and that's time in front of whatever it is that you're getting into, that you just have to get through, and it's really just a matter of time and effort that you put into it until it becomes natural. I was talking about how I think it was Will Terry, and forgive me if I'm not, he's got a great video up on making your painting more dynamic, and in there he talks about, you'll have to listen to it from him, he has a great way of describing it, but how it talks about golfing, and how when you're first learning to golf, you're learning about the type of stroke to do, or the type of which club to use, and what's the best kind of club, and how much force to use, and how much energy, and what's the best place to hit it, and where you want to aim with your sighting, and all this stuff. I'm not a golfer, obviously, you can probably tell, but it's that same kind of when you're just starting out with drawing or animating or singing or whatever, you're thinking about all of these fundamentals that you have to get down and you have to nail, and so for animating, that'd be like your timing and your squash and stretch and your anticipation and your posing and all that kind of stuff. But as you get more comfortable with the medium, and getting back to the golf analogy, someone like a Tiger Woods isn't going up to hit the ball. Man, I'm bad at analogies for sports, but has all of that stuff in mind, and it's just ingrained in him because he's been doing it for how long, Let's go back, zero that out. Okay. So just keep at it, keep pushing every day. That's my thing. I've been talking about this in kind of more of a, I don't know if it would be a mantra, but something that I've just been kind of coming to the conclusion of lately is don't worry so much, but try and do enough each and every day so that when you put your head on your pillow at night, that you're not going to be like, oh, I could have done more. If that's what you're thinking, then chances are you need to be trying more, you need to be pushing more. But if you're let's go to X then. If you are pushing each and every day as much as you can, then be happy with it and be content with where you are. And not that you don't want to keep pushing, but that you've pushed so hard today that it's okay. And if it didn't hit, then at least you know that you were, trying. Let's go back to that. Trying to get the twist in here, but I keep approaching it the wrong way, I'm pretty sure. I'm too chatty today. Okay, so let's rotate X. So I want to go rotate X the other way, I believe. So go like that. I might just have to do some counter animating with that arm as well. Or just tone down the rotate X here again some more. Just do a little bit. Let's see. Here we go. That feels pretty good. And do we have a neck controller or just the head? I want to tone down how much the head's moving here. So let's rotate it. There. Just kind of counter animating the head from how we have the shoulders moving. Alright. Let's balance that out a little better. That still might be too much, so let's try and find a good medium balance between the head and the shoulders moving. That feels pretty good. Probably do a little less. We rotate Y. So we'll counter animate that a little bit. And by counter animate, I mean we want to keep the movement that we have in the hips and in the shoulders. So then we have to take the head movement and animate it to offset that movement. That's counter animating. Usually, it's probably more directly used when you animate something on ones and then want to readjust it. Usually counter animating is kind of pejorative or a negative connotation. It means you probably messed something up in your animation, so you're doing counter animation to balance out the thing that you messed up. But I tend to look at there's two sides to counter animating. Sometimes counter animating is just kind of offsetting, but that's just kind of my own personal. There's probably a lot of ways that you could define that, but that's kind of how I do it in my head. So if you do it, if you think of it differently, let me know in the comments down below. Always looking to widen my worldview and my vocabulary as well. I think it's important to always be, especially as animators. I think that's a big thing for. There's a philosopher I was listening to recently, and he does this, and this is just more kind of, I guess, inside baseball for creative people. But the way that I think these days is more. So I was listening to this philosopher. Keep my train of thought here. And one thing that he does that's very interesting that I've started to really look for when I'm watching things or listening to things, and this is, I'm not thinking about illustration or animation when I'm listening to this guy. I'm just listening, usually while I'm illustrating or animating. But he does this thing where he always goes, and then he keeps talking, and it's such a unique, quirky trait. And it's not something that he's doing mindfully. It's just a kind of a tick that he has. But I think that's such a unique character trait that I'd love to, approach some character that when he talks, he's always sniffing there. It's just a very something that you necessarily wouldn't think of when you're thinking of how are you going to animate a scene. Are you going to throw a guy who sniffs, or who always rubs his nose, or scratches his head a lot or something? It's those kind of underlying personality things that really gives your character that extra bit of life. So always try and have this mindset of looking for things around you. Or if you have a friend who always smacks, another podcaster that I listen to quite often does, and I'm sure I have a million ticks that I do as well, but I always like those because they add that little bit of extra character that you can add into your characters to help give them that extra bit of life as well. So let's see if we can do a little bit of micro movement in here. We don't want a lot, but we still want some movement in these arms. And a little bit more here. I'll go back. So let's see that. always kind of like to do wider mouths. I think those are, for me, more aesthetically something that I'm drawn to. So let's make her mouth a little bit wider. Let's push those lips up a little bit more. A little bit less of a smile, thinner lips. And let's maybe rotate the eyelids. Medium. Sometimes different controllers are a little bit harder to. Let's do a little bit lower eyelid. Now there's one thing with half eyelids that you have to kind of be aware of is if you do too much they look sleepy. If you do too wide of eyes they look kind of crazy so you have to always be kind of aware. But one thing that I believe it was Keith Sinte was a good note that I think about a lot is you want to really keep is it the iris? I always get those mixed up. The iris, the black part of the eye, kind of resting on the eyelid. It's a good way to keep your characters feeling like they're focused. So if you're looking up, there's the colored part is going to be hidden and it's just going to be resting there. If you do really open eyes, they tend to either look crazed or just spacey. See, she does look a little sleepy here. So maybe we'll open those up a little bit more. Let's look at the eyes. Maybe we can have them look up a little bit more. Looks like we left a key in somewhere here. So, and now let's pull the eyelid down a little bit more. Like that. And let's take that and set that. And we'll go ahead and get a blink in here. I'm gonna still approach the arm. I don't know, kind of mixing up my formula a little bit today, but that's okay. So let's open them up a little bit more. Close them there. Hold it for about 2 frames. And open them up again. And rest. So I always like to do a little bit of an overshoot. Do a bit of a hold to begin with, then they go over exaggerate, come down and close, hold for at least 2 frames you want to read there, and then overshoot again and rest. So you get that a little bit. That's kind of how I approach a blink. If you guys have a good blink strategy, let me know in the comments below. So again, something like this, we'd want to open them up a little bit larger. Closed up here. Maybe we did it too early. Go something like that. You always want to do less on the lower eyelids than on the uppers. Delete that one. Maybe a little more. let's do a little bit of, go ahead and save our file while we're at it. Probably do something with the mouth, the bottom of the head too, so that it'd be cool if there's a hair controller, but I don't think there is. Just do a little bit of movement in there. That's alright. A little bit there. A little bit there. Back again. Let's see. Then we'll have to tweak our forearm and hand there a little bit more too. And again, I usually just like to do one controller in the forearm or elbow area, because that's really all that the elbow can move is in one rotation. It doesn't have a 360 rotation like your upper arm does. Okay, now let's go ahead and tone that down. Now again, for posing and stuff, I'm not going to say never do that, but that's usually kind of how I like to simplify arms, is do 360 degrees here, just one rotate here, and then all three there. And let's do a little bit on here. Go out a little bit there. Again, this is more keep alive. I don't want to still pretty much hold the main pose that I have, but add a little bit of movement in here. Let's go ahead and delay that one frame, and also probably minimize it a little more. And we'll add some in the fingers and everything as we go too. So let's minimize it a little bit more. Let's see here. Okay, I'll go ahead and save that, and let's look at, and with this method where we kind of do a little bit of layered, we wouldn't want to get into such tighter movements in the arms unless we'd already done the hips and the shoulders, because that stuff would mess up that animation there. So usually you want to start kind of from the root out, so you do the root or the hip area and do shoulders and do and go to like the upper arms or the legs and just kind of work your way down towards the tips of the fingers or the top of the head, or that way. That way you can kind of have a good rough idea, and if you need to go make changes later, you're not having a bunch of animation you did in the fingertips to start with that isn't going to work for anything once you move the arm in a different way. That pose isn't going to read or whatever. So it's just kind of things that you have to think about, or that you learn as you grow as an animator a little bit more. But chances are you guys are awesome creatives already, so you might already know that stuff. But just in case, just kind of talking about different approaches to your animation as you're working. Just gonna do something like that. Set that. And I'll kind of go a little bit here. Okay, and maybe we'll take all the stuff on base 5 and mid 5 and tip 5 and delayed frame, and take stuff on base 2, so this would be the index finger and the pinky finger. We're just kind of varying them a little bit. So let's see. let's get a better pose in the thumb. Something like that. I do like more of that kind of pose. I think I like that. It seems a little more relaxed. So let's take everything on number 1, which is the thumb here, and go ahead and set that. And I'll do a little bit of spread this way, spread that way, this way, back again. Okay. And let's look at the fingers on this side. And actually, let's look at the wrist here. Maybe we can just do it with the fingers. So let's grab the spread here. Drag it back there. Push it forward there. Drag it back there. Push it forward there. There, so it's got to. And let's look at the pinky. Pointer finger. This finger here. Can't think of the name of it for some reason. Awesome. And let's adjust that there as well. Yeah, let's go and see that now. Okay, and let's take the spread 5 and I'll delay it a frame. Let's spread 1 and we'll or spread 2 here and we'll push it forward a frame so it gets more variation there. And let's just tweak it a little bit more so that way we get some different coupling or grouping there with our hands. So let's see. I feel like it goes too far forward here, so I'll tone it down a little bit more. Yeah, let's look at this spread 4 here, and we'll just vary it a little bit more. Let's see that now. Kind of group there. That's fine. Maybe a little bit more. Just so we get a little bit of different grouping with our fingers there. Okay, and then let's go ahead and look at the base of the thumb. Mid here. Tip. Let's do a little bit of out here, back down, back up. And let's look at the mid 1 and tip 1. Let's tone those down. A little too much there. little bit on the jaw here. So let's go ahead and just do a little bit of up and down here. Set that. It's too much, so, but we need to do something here. So let's just key it this way, and I can go in it. And translate Y. Okay. And we'll go back to where we started here. So we can just do a little bit of movement there. Maybe we could amp it up a little bit more. So let's see. And we could do a little bit more pursing of the lips here as well. And just push that out a little bit on this side. Push that out a little bit. Just so we get some kind of change of shape there. And then grab both of those. Hold that for a little bit. Go out. And take that. We'll go back to where it was just so we have a little bit of movement there. Still feel like the head probably has a little too much movement on it, but I think it's probably coming from the hips. So let's take the rotate X and we'll just scale it back a little bit. And we might have to play around with this a little bit more so that we can readjust the shoulders as well. Just feel like there's a little too much movement there. But if we were to do the hips, then we got to do the shoulders, and then we got to do the okay, let's see if we can just tone down the head. I feel like the shoulders are working okay. Let's try that now. Feels a little better. Let's tone down the tilt here as well. So let's see. Feels a little more subtle, a little less over the top. We got a little more movement in that hand now. That's okay. I'm glad to keep that. And let's go ahead and turn our curves off. I think that'll do it for today. Definitely could clean up and polish this thing for another hour or so, but I think that works. So let's take a look back at where we started. We're looking at the beautiful illustration work of Mike Dubisch, and he said, do your own thing, show the world your vision. So find out what your own thing is, and find out what your vision is, and your passion, and try to link those things up and pursue it each and every day. I love you guys lots. If you're watching this, you are the creative future. Keep on pursuing your dreams each and every day. And with that being said, we'll see you for some more animation tomorrow.